welcome back to Snackable Growth. Today, let's talk about how to solve problems in your life by reframing them. We'll hit on why it's important to reframe problems in your life and 4 ways that you can do that with examples. Let's get into it. So I found that the problems in my life are tricky because they're vague and ambiguous. It's things like, I'm not happy enough, or I don't know what I want to do with my life, or I don't know how to find passion. These problems haven't been properly framed. And by framed, I mean that they're too broad and they're not specific and detail-oriented. So how do we actually fix the framing of these problems so that we can solve them? Here are my 4 tips. First, make sure that the framing of your problem has a lever that you can change and what I call a why statement. Let's take the example of, I'm not happy enough. This isn't a very useful statement. So let's start by adding the lever that we think we could pull to change it. Maybe something like, I'm not happy in this career doing this specific scope of work. Now let's add a why statement, as in, why do you think this is a problem? It could be something like, I'm not happy in this career doing this specific scope of work because I'm not interested in this part of this industry. This has a lot more to work with, but let's up-level it one more time by replacing happy with a more specific adjective. For example, are you resentful of this job? Are you actually clinically depressed in this job? Are you bored and unchallenged in this job? Are you angry or merely apathetic in this job? These could all certainly dampen happiness, but they're also subtly different and therefore more helpful when trying to frame your problem. My second tip is to separate the unchangeable situation from the fixable problem. Too often, we anchor on the sunk cost and we include it as part of the problem. For example, let's say that someone is already 2 years deep into med school, and now they think that they don't want to be a doctor. There's certainly some big sunk costs there in terms of time and money, but it's also not really relevant to your go-forward strategy. There's a saying I like that really speaks to this point. It says, don't confuse a gravity problem with a problem. None of us can change gravity, so don't even include it in the framing of your problem. My third tip is to think about your problem as something with a collection of solutions. We tend to think of the problems in our life like algebra. There's only one solution for this one specific problem, but that's rarely the case. That mindset also becomes really frustrating because you're hunting for perfection rather than cultivating experimentation. Instead, take the approach of outlining 5 or 10 different and maybe even weird possible solutions. Let's try this with an example. Let's say that you don't feel like you're moving up the ladder fast enough in your career. There are some possible solutions that quickly come to mind. For example, you could talk to your manager. You could actually just leave your job. You could actually go get an offer at another company and use it as leverage with your current job. Perhaps you could even consider going back to school. But let's get even more unusual. You could actually propose to create your own role, maybe serving as the chief of staff to someone in a leadership position. Maybe you could write up your own strategic proposal about something to change and shop it around with folks and eventually send it to the CEO to showcase your leadership. This is a collection of bold and varied possible solutions to your problem. More than that, most of them aren't really mutually exclusive. So why not try them out? My 4th and final tip for reframing your problems to help solve them is to really clarify your why. We briefly hit on this in the first tip, but let's go a little bit deeper. When you clarify why something feels like a problem, you can more easily parse out what is a feature of the situation from what is a feature of yourself. As we know, the features of yourself are frustrating, but they're also much easier to change. Let's use the same example as last time. You don't feel like you're ascending rapidly enough in your career. Why is this so deeply troublesome? There could be issues of need, practical reasons like you need more money. There could be issues of want, like you want more money. But more often than not, there are these more subtle psychological reasons for something to feel problematic. For example, you may actually be feeling a sense of injustice because you feel like the quality of your work warrants more recognition. That's helpful specificity because then you can assess how healthy your work environment is. On the other side of the spectrum, this could actually be hitting on your insecurity. You secretly don't think you're capable of or worthy of promotion in your career. Or perhaps you actually feel guilty because you know you're not using your time productively enough to create the changes you want. Again, that specificity is actionable. You could just beta test really pushing yourself for a certain window of time to see if it pushes the needle. So those are my 4 tips. To summarize, get specific with your problem statement, forget about sunk cost, outline a collection of solutions, and make sure you're clear on why something feels like a problem in your life. That's all from me. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe for more videos like this. I'll see you next time on Snackable Growth.